So please feel free to sit back, relax, enjoy hearing a little bit about how we can leverage LinkedIn for our careers. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to talk about creating your network. So how do I get started with that network? What is networking? Maybe I'm not familiar with the topic, or maybe I do have some experience, but I'm looking to improve that. We're going to talk about personalized invites and outreach and how we can make an invite a little bit more impactful or try to draw the lines a little bit for somebody if we're just reaching out for the very first time as well. How do we leverage that network, right? So, okay, now I've created my network. I've personalized some invites, outreach to start to expand the network. But how can my network help me? How does it become beneficial? So we're going to discuss that point. We're going to talk about updating your profile to give it a fresh look, make sure it's aesthetically pleasing and attractive to employers and hiring managers and recruiters and anybody else who might come across your profile. So you want to make sure it's certainly up to snuff. So we'll talk about that. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to have time for Q&A at the end for what questions you might have left. So looking forward to that opportunity as well. So, okay, creating your network, all about making new connections. So we want to make sure that we can think outside the box a little bit, okay? So think broadly about your existing networks as they are. So these could be people like I have here in Bubbles, like student groups that you might be a part of now. Like those people are your network. Peers and friends, classmates, mentors, both formal and informal, family and extended family. So even everybody right here in this call right now, you all are a part of one another's network, right? So it's a really unique opportunity. So I would actually encourage you to maybe see, if anybody else you know who attended this event, try to reach out to them, connect, see if there was something that you took away, or put this into practice maybe with somebody else on the call to reach out. And we'll talk a little bit about messaging and things like that. But sometimes I think networking gets thought of as, well, it's just maybe, people that I kind of know or friends, or it's, maybe it's, my parent or guardians, people that they might know. So they might feel like they don't have a network. You all have a network. You're actually all a part of it right here, right now. I'm part of your network, our office. So make sure to leverage that, here, especially during your time at Penn, but also as you continue to go on to different internships and jobs and research positions. All of those people start to become your network, as well as the entire Penn alum database, which we're going to talk about on LinkedIn, but it's at about 190,000 users or so. So go beyond that scope, though, of people that you are currently looking at, companies that also are of interest to you. That can be people. We want to think about how we can create the network. So make a list of people across categories. So like I said, maybe that's recruiters, maybe that's classmates, peers. It could be people who are in positions that you can see yourself in one day at a certain company, and then just contact them, right? LinkedIn's a very friendly platform. I think people more often than not are willing to help. Just let them know your interest, convey it. I'm such and such at UPenn, and I'm studying blank. I see that you are X, and I would love to connect and hear a little bit about your career path, right? Sometimes when you start that relationship, it can get into eventually a referral or an introduction that they might be able to make to somebody else. You can go down your list and ask yourself at any of these companies that you're targeting, okay, does a Penn alum work here? And even if they don't, that doesn't mean you can't reach out, but maybe using Penn as kind of the common ground to start the conversation can be a good strategy and a good place to go. I would recommend coming up with some sort of sheet, right? Like something to track your connections or maybe people that you're looking to reach out to. This isn't something that's going to be accomplished in one day. You're never going to stop networking. So don't feel like that you have to have it all kind of figured out and that you're going to connect with everyone you possibly need to, in one sitting. You can kind of make this a little bit of an active project. I like to set aside specific time, especially for students who say like, Dustin, I just don't feel like I have the time to do this networking piece. Like, how do you recommend I do that? I typically recommend just maybe putting aside 30 minutes a week. Maybe it's every other week, depending on your schedule, what works for you. And if you have your list of people that you're looking to reach out to, that's when you can kind of start that engagement, to re-engage with expanding your network. But think outside the box, right? So it just doesn't have to be people that you know. It can eventually be people that you don't know, and you kind of start to have some of those preliminary conversations with them. So how do we identify potential contacts? So this is all about leveraging LinkedIn, right? So what is LinkedIn? So for anybody who might not know, LinkedIn is a professional networking site which features individual profiles and job postings and company pages and different interest groups, and there's groups on LinkedIn. I mean, it's a really exhaustive website and platform that you can really dig really deep into, or kind of just start surface level if you're just starting out. You can identify the UPenn and your school's alumni contacts, right? So is it Wharton? Is it Arts and Sciences? C's, right? Any of the schools, SP2, right? You are able to really filter down and find people specific that were in your program, or maybe doing things now that you look back and you're like, you know what, that is something that I wanted to do at one point. So they're going to be willing to help you more often than not. But doing some of that hard work first, using your research skills to learn more about your contacts and industry and the employer before contacting them, all of that background info will have your conversation to be a bit more enriching, right? A little bit more engaging if you're prepared. And we're going to go through an example of how we can identify folks and then be able to kind of, showcase how to send a message as well. But so identifying potential contacts, again, if we look back at this previous slide here, when we're thinking outside the box, okay, who are these people in these 4 different buckets? And now I can start to use some of these LinkedIn filters and search features to be able to come up with my short list that I'm able to reach out to. So here is UPenn's LinkedIn page that I was referencing earlier. So when I took the screenshot at the time, it looked like there was almost 200,000 active Penn alumni using LinkedIn, right? So the way you navigate to this page, search for University of Pennsylvania at the top in the search bar, click on our page, and then go over to alumni. So this is the really cool part where you can filter down that job search, right? It can be where they work. It could be by job title, function, location. So maybe if you're interested in people in the greater Philadelphia area, or maybe you're looking internationally, or you're going over to the West Coast, right? So you can start to find people that you have common ground with or want to create common ground with, right? To help benefit your own network. And then just find a profile you're interested in and navigate to their page for the next step in this networking process. And you'll see that, that part of the process is going to end up being a little bit easier each time you do it. It'll feel, the more practice you have with it, I think the better. But I just want to make everyone aware, if you weren't already. So this is how you navigate to the alumni section, and very quickly can identify and work down that list of 197,000 plus, right, to a more manageable number that you can work with to start to create people that you want to reach out to share your story, hear about their career, which can really help you get going in the right direction that you're looking to go. We talk about this, informational interviewing, right? So these are kind of how you start to have these conversations. Now, a company LinkedIn page. So you can complete the same process I just spoke about with reaching out to an alumni, starting on Penn's page, and then kind of filtering. You can actually work backwards. So if you're like, Dustin, I don't know maybe the people I'm going to reach out to right now, but I know a company that I'm really interested in. Okay. Okay, no problem. Let's go to the company's page. So if you go to the company's page, you will be able to see every company is going to have, I have it highlighted here, a people tab. Okay. So when you have this people tab, you're going to start to see, a huge number of employees or a small number, a medium number, depending on the company size, is going to pop up. Obviously, Amazon has a large number of employees as a company. So what did I do? I went over here where this arrow is, and I added University of Pennsylvania, right? All of a sudden, it took Amazon's astronomical number of employees down to a much more manageable, about 1,100 or so. And could be people from all over the place, all different schools, all paths, within Penn. So that's when you want to go into some of those additional features, such as, maybe where they live now, what section of work or job function are they doing? And you can start to have a shorter list of folks that you can reach out to. Find a profile you're interested in. And this is something you can do right away, right? This is not something that, if you're LinkedIn, aside from making sure your profile is up to date, this would be something that you definitely can really get started on right now. So I would recommend, once you find a profile you're interested in, either maybe save their URL for their profile. If you're not ready to reach out right away, that's okay. We can start to make that short list, and then we can get ready for the next step. So again, just to kind of recap this stage in particular, you have Penn's alumni LinkedIn page, okay, where you can use alumni to search for specific things. If you already have some job functions or titles, or, what does it mean to be, in consulting? What does it mean to be in software engineering? Anything like that, right? And then the other option is to start from the company and start to see if there's alumni that might work at that company that you can reach out It's also worthy to note, I believe, that if you end up looking for a very unique or niche company and nobody from Penn has worked there yet, that does not mean that you can't reach out to them, right? You just have to find a different common ground. The alumni piece sometimes just makes the initial outreach a little bit easier or feel maybe less awkward. But certainly you can reach out to whoever you'd like. We have so many different folks and organizations and access right at our fingertips through LinkedIn to be able to reach out. So don't be afraid to do that either. Now, this personalized invite that I was talking about. So, all right, we've gone through either path one or path two. We started with Penn's page and went through alumni, or we started with a company page and went through some of the features to look up Penn alum or people in similar job functions. And we've identified a profile that we want to reach out to. So here we have Margaret's page. I asked Margaret, she is one of our graduate assistants here in the career services office. And I asked her if it'd be okay if I would use her profile as an example because her and I were not connected yet. So I wanted to be able to show you on the front end what this kind of looks like. So let's say that I was really interested in what it meant to work at Bain, right? Bain and Company. Like what was her experience like? So I identify her profile, I go to her page. You might be met with these three buttons here that say message, follow, and more. And you're like, well, Dustin, like how am I supposed to connect with this person or reach out to them? If I hit this message button and I don't have premium, it's going to give me this error message of you need premium or try premium for free. I do not believe you need premium to be able to get the most out of this particular feature that I'm talking about. If you head over to the More tab, you're going to get this drop down menu. And then I've highlighted Connect there where you're going to see that button. In the top right of this slide, you'll then see this option. You can customize this invitation. You can add a note to personalize your invitation to Margaret. So you want to hit add a note, and then you're going to be greeted with this text box in the bottom right about how you can craft your message, right? This is the important piece because on the back end, when someone is receiving one of these invitations, they can actually see your entire message before deciding if they want to accept your connection request or not. So it's a little bit different than like a random friend request on Facebook or a random follow on another social media platform. This is much more intentional, and you can show somebody your intentions with this message. And so I think people are far more likely to accept an invite if you're willing to add a note, especially if you don't know the person. I'm not saying you need to add a note. Like I said at the beginning, when we're creating our network, you don't need to add a note necessarily to the person you sit next to in class every day and your friends and you have a relationship. If you see their profile and you just want to hit connect, like that's more than okay, right? This feature is really for when you're trying to start a relationship or maybe follow up on something too. So say you attend an event on campus or you were attending a conference and somebody's speaking and you want to follow up with that person and reach out and say, my name is Dustin and I attended XYZ presentation this past week that you were at Penn and I really learned so much about blank. Thank you for taking the time. Looking forward to staying connected. Something like that will give you a little bit of an edge, maybe later on. That's the cool thing about networking. You never know when one of your connections is going to be able to come back into the fold, into your play, into your job search, career search, to be able to help you. So if you take one thing away from leveraging LinkedIn and this presentation in particular, I really would encourage you to try this if you haven't yet. I know it can be a little, like I said, a little scary when you start, but I promise you the more you practice, it's going to get easier. So, however, outreach messages. There's the too long message and there's the too short message, right? So the long message you see here on the left-hand side, I have things like long rambling narratives. There's too much focus, you asking for too much, right? People are busy. You're requesting information that's easy to find online. So if you're like, oh, like, where can I find, your jobs posted? Well, did you take the time to look at the company's website yet? Did you look at the company's page on LinkedIn to see jobs posted? Did you check out Handshake to see if something was posted? You kind of want to be able to make sure that it's also customized to the reader, which is where the personalization of the note comes in. We have to make sure we're valuing the reader's unique perspective. So we don't want to be too wordy and too lengthy, right? We kind of want to get to the point. However, on the flip side of that, we don't want to have this too short message, which is short, but it's not specific. You're not including enough details, or maybe I don't know why you're reaching out. I'm a little confused. So if I reached out to my colleague John, for example, and if I was like, "Hey, John, I'm really interested in your career. Thanks, Dustin." Well, John would say, "Oh, okay, like that's that's pretty broad. Like, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like how I got here? Do I like my career? What do I do in my career? Right. So we want to make sure that we can identify next steps, kind of a call to action, in our message. And again, it's still got to be customized to the reader. We want to show them that we took that time to be able, to meet and speak with them. So when approaching a contact for an informational interview, we want to start by sending a brief message, such as how you found their contact info, right? So was it through the company? Was it through an alum of Penn that you're familiar with? Share that you're interested in learning about their field and that you were hoping you could set up a time to speak about their career path. People love to talk about themselves, so don't worry about that piece. When you get in that opportunity to have a conversation with them, they're going to be more than willing to share how they got there, because at some point they were in the same position that you were in. So I think that's also why people are so willing to help. So oftentimes I like to give the example, if somebody from, your undergrad or your high school had reached out and wanted to know about your experience at Penn as a student, I'm sure most of you in here would be more than willing to chat with somebody, just because, at some point you were probably really curious about what it was like. So there's very much like this give and take and helping and network, and what goes around comes around in a really positive way. But you just want to also make sure you're stating how you became interested in the industry. You want to be clear about your goals for the meeting. So here's an example. Hello, Mr. Miller. I found your profile on LinkedIn. As a fellow, UPenn software engineering major, I'm especially interested in how you parlayed your studies in engineering to pursue a career in blank. Would you have 15 minutes in the next few weeks during which I could learn more about your career path and seek your advice as to ways in which I can be best positioning myself now if I'm hoping to pursue X next summer? Warm regards, sincerely, whatever you want to sign off it as, and then your name. So this is not too long. It's not too short. You're identifying how you kind of came across them. You say what you know about them, which is, I see you are in this kind of career right now. And you make it very clear what your expectations are or what you're asking, which is for 15 minutes of their time to hear a little bit of advice for you as you pursue your internship. So I'll give everyone a quick second here in case they want to kind of take a picture of this as well, just if you want to end up using this kind of outreach message for yourself. So give everyone just a couple seconds here. Okay. So optimizing our network now. So how do we keep up with these new connections? We keep contacts updated at the start of a semester, season, or kind of during a transition. Send an email greeting around the holidays, maybe kind of a natural time. The third bullet point is really important. We want to follow up as appropriate, but we don't want to force it, right? You don't want to be like checking in every week and giving an update about maybe like what you did in class or anything like that. But every couple months, every several months, every 6 months, whatever you feel is appropriate as you're kind of going through your process. I like to keep the relationship what I call kind of warm, right? So that way, when something does come up or you are applying for a role within their company, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for you to reach out and be like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I recently applied to X job. Our conversation back in, and you want to keep notes, right? So our conversation back in April really helped me feel excited and motivated to look for roles within your company. So thank you again so much. So yes, you're reaching out to be kind and courteous to say thank you, but it's also kind of an excuse to get your name back in their head. Maybe they're willing to drop your name or your resume to somebody who's overseeing the search for that role. Maybe they're overseeing the search. So you never know, like I said, when these connections can kind of come back around. I wanted to point out on our website, we do have a tab about learn how to. If you go to UPenn Career Services, learn how to drop down, make connections and network. There's also additional information about that. And this is what I was referencing about leveraging current connections as well. You don't want to directly ask somebody and come off too strong, right? You want to make sure that the conversation is genuine. Like I said, you want to ask about their advice, how they got into the field. I always found it to be beneficial for my own career as well. Hearing how people kind of move from point A to B to C all the way through their career. This type of conversation might lead to a referral, but you don't want to come in too hot and be like, yep, so I was really hoping I could get a referral. It kind of feels like you're sort of using the person a little bit. So we want to make sure that we are being genuine in our interactions and our connections, because again, someday we don't know when we might be able to leverage them. And really networking should be like I said, give and take and a two-way street. Eventually, you should be able to also kind of be benefiting them, and it's a mutual connection. Alumni do tend to be more receptive to inquiries from current students who want to learn more about their company, role, or industry because they do have a vested interest more, in Penn students if they're also a Penn alum. But again, not something, they don't have to be a Penn alum for you to reach out or to use any of these strategies that we've discussed. So now kind of shifting into this towards the end here, updating your profile on LinkedIn. So in addition to updating or adding some of the obvious sections that LinkedIn really walks you through quite nicely, education, work experience, and about section, your headline, all of those things, there are other pieces of your profile that need attention. So here's a screenshot from my profile. So one, I have an updated headshot, which I'm going to talk a little bit later about our photo booth. If you're not familiar with that yet, you want an updated header picture as well. So I have kind of this aerial shot of, Penn and Philly, right? You want it to be part of your brand. A lot of times I feel like people don't even know they can update that picture, but you want to make it something that's on brand for you. So think about what that means, for the jobs that you're pursuing. You want to make sure that you have an updated location as well and not too specific. So you'll see here, I have Greater Philadelphia, which is an entire area or in a region as opposed to just Philadelphia, the city, right? So when people are doing searches, recruiters and things like that, if you have the larger area, when you have to put in your zip code, you're going to get a drop-down menu of different options. You want to choose the largest area. That way you cast your net wide when people are conducting searches on LinkedIn as well. You'll see here like school and work. So where I completed my master's is displayed, and then where I work now, obviously a Penn is displayed. And then I want to bring attention to the public profile and URL. Chances are, if you have not edited this yet, you might have a whole bunch of numbers and letters and a bunch of random stuff at the end of the URL that makes it look not very clean or aesthetically pleasing. You can go in here and hit this pencil and you can edit the profile, the URL. I really recommend doing that. It's going to be able to fit nicer and look better on your resume. When people are looking you up, it's going to have just a much cleaner look overall. So those are some things, like I said, outside the obvious I wanted to point out: updating the headshot, your background photo, your location, and then also updating that public profile URL. This is, the about section that I mentioned. So your about section, you want to make sure that you're kind of referencing a couple of, key points, such as maybe who you are, what you're pursuing, any background. So if I was a job seeker right now, I would probably change this a little bit. It wouldn't necessarily be it's very summary based right now. But if I was pursuing a job, it might look a little bit different. And you want to make sure your skills, right? Sometimes recruiters are looking for people through skills. Your top 3 skills show up. You can list, you see here, I have 24 other skills listed, right? All 24 skills, but your top 3 are the ones that show up on your profile. So make sure that those are up to date and the ones that you want displayed for people to see when they visit your profile and are searching for you. Now, I just wanted to reference to kind of close here before questions, the new headshot booth just inside the entrance of the Career Services office. We're located in the McNeil building off Locust Walk in Suite 20, which is in the basement. And you have access to this photo booth. We are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You don't need an appointment to use it. Right now, the only thing is if there was a group that was using it, it would be shut down for a period of time, but there'd be a sign to let you know. So please come in. It's self-service. There's nobody there. As you can see in the pictures here, you come in and you run the booth, kind of for yourself. Easy step-by-step instructions. It's private. And then the headshots get emailed directly to you for you to download and then upload into your LinkedIn, your email accounts, anything like that at all. So I just want to make sure you all are aware of this resource that you have access to. And with that being said, thank you so much. And I do want to open it up. I know we have a couple of minutes for any questions that you might all have. Thank you so much for being here today.